a bold-faced lie. We don't hate nobody because of their color. We hate oppression. We hate murder of black people in our communities.
People just turned out. They wanted to help us. They wanted to give us money. They wanted us to come speak. It was this gathering of connection to the Black Panthers that was different to before. Rhythm to how we spoke. It was a rhythm to how we walked, and the people recognized that we stood outside of that on the street. They were like, ooh, that's a butt ugly person. Ooh, they ugly. But in the party, it was just something that gave them this tremendous sex appeal.
The Panthers didn't invent the idea of black is beautiful. People started wearing afros and dashikis. One of the things the Panthers did was that urban black is beautiful. And that look just blew people away.
If you were a young black man living in the city anywhere, you wanted to be like this. You wanted to dress like this. You wanted to act like this. You wanted to talk like this. You wanted to be this.
It's a standard of aggressiveness, of militance, of just forcefulness, that the sort of standard we haven't had in the past.
But figuratively speaking, you're not about to become a Panther.
No, not today or tomorrow at any rate. Maybe the day after.
This brother here, myself, all of us were born with our hair like this, and we just wear it like this. Reason for it, you might say, is like a new awareness among black people that their own natural appearance, physical appearance is beautiful. Black people are aware now. They're proud of it. It's pleasing to them. Dig it? Isn't it beautiful? All right.
You're talking about people who are teenagers, 17, 18, 19, 20. That's the bulk of the Panthers are teenagers. So the fact that we were so young and the fact that this hadn't happened before, I'm not certain that we recognize how startling it looked to other people.
Dear Mr. Newton, I'm a 13-year-old black girl and I want to be a Black Panther. I wish you would fill me in. Does it matter what your religion is? What are some qualifications to be a Black Panther? P.S. Write me back personally.
I was taught to be proper, behave yourself, you're going out in public, to always know that the white man was listening. With the Black Panthers coming to the scene, it was just a completely different message. As a 12-year-old, you know what? You had this whole other portrayal of self and just digging it.
Photographers took advantage. I mean, they took our pictures, they put them on newspapers, they put them on magazines, and that look that we projected, you know, the big afro, the leather jacket, the shades, that became a hit. And obviously, photographers were drawn to the Panthers.
So we hear a great deal about the Black Panthers.
The Black Panthers were absolutely unique.
The Black Panthers were Black Panthers like Panthers. Black Panther movement.
Black Panther Party.
Black Panthers.
I think the Black Panthers really understood the media. They knew what we were after. They knew what we were focusing on.
the Panthers has amounted to
a Black Panther Party.
Many people know the Panthers.
You might say that we exploited the Black Panthers, but I think there's a lot of evidence that they used us to their advantage. They were able to establish their legitimacy as a voice of protest.
the chairman of the Black Panther Party, and here he is.
We have a film of your breakfast program. Is this without sound also?
Yeah, I think.
All right. Will you comment on this?
Yes, I will. This is a free breakfast for children program, and they're preparing the food there early in the morning. It's about 2 hours work in the morning. These party members primarily set this whole program up, and then we get involved as many of the community people as we can.
Come on in, little y'all sit down and get something to eat.
Studies came out saying that children that didn't have a good breakfast in the morning were less attentive at school and less inclined to do well and suffered from fatigue. I mean, there's all sorts of scientific reasons to have a good breakfast in the morning. And we just simply took that information and a program was developed serving breakfast to children.
After my father came home from Vietnam and was discharged from the Army and couldn't get work, we were going through a very hard time. Food was kind of, just the everyday necessities were hard. I was embarrassed to go, but when you went, kids are all laughing. And then all of a sudden the stigma, or whatever you thought was a stigma, went away. And we really got to see that, yes, this is what the Black Panthers are.
We were showing love for our people. If you have a child, if you know that, hey, these men and women are going to feed my child in the morning, that's a big deal.
The breakfast program actually really caught on. It served about 20,000 meals a week to young people in 19 different communities. So it wasn't a fly-by-night thing. It really actually was making a difference.
Just at the moment that the Panthers are turning towards survival programs, towards free breakfast programs, free clinics, and free food programs that will help them reconnect with the Black community and build their membership, and repudiating this earlier advocacy of armed self-defense and police patrols. J. Edgar Hoover attacks the Panthers.
Hoover saw any form of Black organizing as a threat to the status quo as he saw it. Change that would have involved equality, that would have put the power in Black people's hands, was very much a threat to Hoover. He started something called COINTELPRO, directed against what he called Black nationalist hate groups.
COINTELPRO was the abbreviation of Counterintelligence Program.
The purpose of this new counterintelligence endeavor is to expose, disrupt, misdirect, discredit, or otherwise neutralize the activities of Black nationalists.
Neutralize could mean making somebody an informant, or putting somebody in jail, or having somebody killed. Hoover was sending letters to various offices almost on a weekly basis to come up with new ideas to go after members of the Black Panther Party.
"245 of the 290 COINTELPRO actions were against the Black Panthers. One of the mandates was, do not make this program public. Do not tell anybody that it exists.
FBI has a memo that states the objectives of counterintelligence operations. One is to prevent the rise of what they call the Black Messiah, a single charismatic leader that can unify the movement. They want to prevent the appeal of radical political movement to black youth. And they wanted to isolate these groups to prevent them from gaining respectability in the black community. And they were very explicit in stating these goals.
We were followed every day. We were harassed. Our phones were tapped. Our families were harassed. My parents were both visited by the FBI.
We must create suspicion with respect to their respective spouses, and your imagination and resourcefulness must be employed in order for the Bureau to be successful.
They would send letters to my wife, and the letters would say that Landon is sleeping with this woman, or sleeping with that woman, or sleeping with the other woman. Then when I got arrested, the FBI came to me and said, look, we got all this evidence, all these people are gonna flip and turn on you, we're gonna execute you, because we got you now, we're gonna execute you. But if you will be an informant for us, then we'll let you go.
My recruitment by the FBI was very efficient, very simple, really. I'd stolen a car and went joyriding over the state limit. And they had a potential case against me, and I was looking for an opportunity to work it out. And a couple of months later, that opportunity came when the FBI agent Roy Mitchell asked me to go down to the local office of the Black Panther Party and try to gain membership.
The FBI wanted to destroy the Panthers. They absolutely saw the Panthers as the vanguard of a very, very threatening and violent revolutionary movement. They absolutely wanted this organization to be destroyed.
The FBI was coming around, my mother-in-law and my wife, and for me to stop that kind of activity, I stopped going home. And a lot of other people did also to protect their families. You could kind of, in a sense, say we abandoned our families for the Panther Party.
You might have a 3-bedroom apartment that might have 10 Panthers staying there, sharing bedrooms. The living room was basically also a bedroom. We called them Panther pads. Somebody would be on 24 hours.
Uhuru. So we decided to, we just wanted to show the first few moments of the documentary because it is a documentary that was produced by the bourgeois media. So as the documentary goes on, it doesn't really, it doesn't do the Panthers justice. And even in the first few clips that we saw, it didn't fully represent or show who the Black Panther Party was, but it did give you some insight. And just, I know that me personally, watching this documentary and also being a member of the African People's Socialist Party, it made me really appreciate the party because I did see a lot of the party that we have today in the Black Panther Party. It's almost like the African People's Socialist Party just literally looks like an upgraded version of the Black Panther Party, really. From the 10-point platform to our 14-point platform to everything, we have is, we saw what happened in the 60s and now we're ready to not let it happen again. So it just really made me appreciate this movement and this party because this time we will win, Uhuru. So don't want to speak too much. Without any further ado, I'm going to bring up the chairman of the African People's Socialist Party, Uhuru.
Uhuru. I want to express appreciation to everybody who came out for this discussion. I think that the memory of many people, or the example established for many people about the Black Revolution of the 1960s can be found in what the Black Panther Party. And it was a really important organization. And in fact, it can be truthfully said that the Black Panther Party represented the revolutionary center in this country. And, but I would like to perhaps just say a few things that helps us to understand a little bit about how the Panther Party came into existence, its significance, and also obviously we'll have to say something about the FBI, because if you heard the bits of the documentary that we listened to, you had somebody talking about the FBI and the attack on the Black Panther Party because they thought the Black Panther Party was for murder and violence, etc. It's absolutely necessary to say some things because even that idea must be refuted. The Black Panther Party is not something that was simply born of the imagination of some young African people in Oakland, California. Even the name, the Black Panther Party, was something that came from earlier struggles of our people in this country. Even the question of armed resistance preceded the Black Panther Party. You can go back to a startling example of that in recent history with the 1957 organization by Robert Williams in Monroe, North Carolina, who was an ex-Marine and was the president of the Monroe, North Carolina NAACP. And as the African people in that city came under Klan and other white nationalist attacks, Robert Williams, pushed by the African women in that community, actually picked up the gun and created an organization of armed Africans to defend our community from the Klan and from other white terrorists. And as a consequence of that, of course, the NAACP fired him, kicked him out of the NAACP. But a meaningful example, again, of the issue of armed resistance can be found with Robert Williams. You should, you should Google Robert Williams, not right now, but and investigate him. He ended up being chased out of the country. Went to Cuba, was exiled in Cuba. The Cuban government gave him a radio program, and he used to broadcast from Cuba into the United States from Radio Free Dixie. That's what it was called. He wrote a book that was called Negro with Guns, and again challenged the African people in this country to arm defense against white nationalist terror. So Williams was somebody who preceded. The thing is that our people have never not lived under white terror since we have been snatched up and brought to this country. And I think it's important to say that because that is part of what helps explain the Black Panther Party, which the name of which is something that came from the struggle of black people in the 1950s during what was characterized as the civil rights movement. And out of this movement for civil rights, we saw the emergence later on in 1960-61, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. The Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee had been heavily influenced by Malcolm X. In fact, some of them who were living in New York would do political education with Malcolm X. And sometimes they actually had Malcolm X to come into Mississippi during some of the civil rights struggles that was happening. And Malcolm was a perennial critic of the civil rights movement, always criticizing the civil rights movement, criticizing a movement that would take women and children and African people to face fire hoses and dogs and two-legged and four-legged dogs and terrorists and to do that and not fight back. And so Malcolm was constantly criticizing. And Malcolm also took the question of blackness to the civil rights movement. The notion of we are black people, the notion of Africa was something, and the question of revolution was introduced to this movement by Malcolm too. So you got a situation where all over the United States and throughout the world, and this is important too, but all over the United States, black people were being lynched by white mobs, police were killing us, our churches were being bombed, and just the most naked kind of aggression against African people was occurring. And the government would not respond. The government was obviously participating in some of the attacks on our people. And throughout the civil rights movement, what we saw was Africans who were trying to first find some kind of freedom, particularly in the South, by using the electoral process. We were going to win freedom because a sector of the African population assumed that if they could integrate into the system, then they could have access to the wealth and resources that white people had. And the most immediate and important method for them to do that was through the electoral process. And this was the African middle class or petty bourgeoisie, a sector of the middle class, saw the way to freedom was through the electoral process. And so they engaged in mobilizing and trying to mobilize African people to register to vote. And in the South, that was almost like a death sentence associated with black people trying to even register to join the Democratic Party. So movements were revolved around that. African people lost their lives. Sharecroppers and other people lost their lives just trying to register to vote. And this was something that was in the hands of the black middle class or black petty bourgeoisie that worked really closely and was funded by a sector of the liberal sector of the white ruling class. Now, this is important to understand this because you get told fairy tales about the civil rights movement and about what happened in history. And people have been led to believe that the reason things happened because either white people were bad and didn't like black people, and then at a there was a situation in this country where fundamental changes were occurring, where the economy in this country was changing. In the South, you had the capitalist economy was created through black people who were enslaved initially. This is where capitalism started, from enslaving and selling black people, not just here in this country, but around the world. The capitalist system was born from that. Born from the so-called Indians or the indigenous people whose land was stolen. Remember, white people are not indigenous to this land. And they're not indigenous to Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and all of the other places. They came there from white countries. And they stole land, they killed people, they went to Africa and kidnapped, they attacked Africa. That's why we hear because of attack Africa and kidnapped millions, scores of millions, perhaps more than a tenth of a billion African people were kidnapped and taken into slavery around the country. We built the capitalist system. And you cannot kidnap a people and put them in these circumstances, divorce them from their families, their friends, their customs, their relatives and stuff without extreme violence. Extreme violence is absolutely necessary in order for this kind of thing to work. Working somebody for free or nothing, extreme violence is absolutely necessary. So our introduction to this relationship with white people and white power was a violent. Everybody else came here looking for a better way of life. We lost a better way of life as a consequence of having kidnapped and brought here. So here you got all of these African people who initially just enslaved, the economy organized around that. The capitalist system that gets built in the South through labor-intensive production, which meant that it was production that were the African people, labor-intensive, based on picking cotton, digging ditches, laying railroad tracks, clearing swamps, just doing all of that kind of work. Farming for the white people, labor-intensive. And then in the North, you had capitalism that was based on, it was capital-intensive. It was based on industry, based on machinery, factories, and what have you. And what happened with the Second Imperial War, all American wars, all the white wars that white people have been engaged in since at least the 17th century, perhaps earlier, have been are wars to redivide the world. After the white people have stolen the world, the borders that we now see in Africa did not exist. These are borders that were created by white people. These names of Ghana, but Ghana didn't create the name Ghana. But many of the names, Nigeria, for example, Cameroon, but these were created by white people. And they created these so-called countries, these borders there, for the purpose of exploiting African people. So all around the world, African people were being exploited. Our resources stolen from us, our identity under assault. And in this country, Africans were now tied to labor-intensive productions. And with the second imperialism, and I was mentioning that this about what happened to Africa is because they split up Africa to avoid, white people wanted to avoid having major wars because they were already ready to fight for parts of Africa. They had a meeting in Berlin in 1884 that lasted through 1885, where they carved up Africa into these entities now that they call different countries and states, and they shared it out among each other. And they said, okay, England, you're going to get Nigeria, they call it Nigeria, they call it this. There was another territory, they just split up and carved, and gave France this, gave Germany this. And that's how they did it. And so now you have a situation where you have this highly labor-intensive production that black people are central to. The whole capitalist system is being born by black people, niggas, darkies, porch monkeys, all these characterizations that they gave us. We are the ones who built the economy in this country, and it was based primarily in the South. Now, there's the second imperialist war that they call World War II. America went into that war late. And this was a war to redivide the world as well. This was a war that they said they were fighting against Nazis, and Hitler, who was a bad person because he killed Jews and things like this, is how we come to understand that war, how it's been taught to us. But the fact of the matter is that war was supposed to redivide the world among the different powers, white people. They didn't like the Germans didn't like the last deal they got because they lost the first imperialist war, World War I. And as a consequence, the white states got together and gave part of what used to be German territory, a territory that Germany had stolen, they gave it to other powers. And so Germany went through this whole desperate thing. And now they had the second imperialist war. And the second imperialist war was fought in Europe, it was fought in North Africa, it was fought at some times in places like the Philippines, etc. But the outcome of that war, the United States dropped 2 nuclear weapons on civilians in Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan. Killed with one bomb more than 8,000 people, and people still dying as a consequence of those bombs that were, these were dropped on civilians. You understand? These were not military targets, these were civilians at a time when Japan was on its knees and unable to really pursue a war against them. But in any event, Europe had been devastated by war. Japan had been devastated. And what that meant was the United States that went into the war very late, carefully, and very late, ended up becoming the most powerful country in the world as a consequence of that.